They didn't come for Gaddafi because he was a dictator. There were plenty of dictators they supported. They came for him because of what he did with the money. And what he was about to do next would have changed every African nation forever. This is the story they buried. In 1951, Libya was ranked among the poorest nations on earth. No electricity in most villages. No clean water. No paved roads connecting the interior to the coast. The average Libyan earned less than $50 a year. Western governments looked at this land and saw nothing worth protecting. Then the oil was discovered. And suddenly Libya became very important to very powerful people. But not to Libyans. Foreign companies moved in and took the contracts. Foreign engineers ran the operations. Foreign banks collected the profits and wired them out of the country before Libyans could count them. The people sitting on top of the largest oil reserves in Africa had nothing. No hospitals. No schools worth speaking of. No share in the wealth beneath their own feet. But one young soldier was watching all of this. And in September 1969, at just 27 years old, he moved. In a single night, with no bloodshed and no foreign backing, Muammar Gaddafi seized control of the entire country. By morning, the king was gone. And Gaddafi picked up the phone and called every Western oil company operating on Libyan soil. He told them the deal was finished. Libya's oil now belonged to Libya. They laughed at him. They had pressured leaders before. They knew how this ended. He did not flinch. Within 2 years, he had renegotiated every single contract and forced companies to hand over 55% of all profits directly to the Libyan state. The other oil-producing nations of the world watched in complete silence, then quietly began demanding the same terms. OPEC followed the same model shortly after. One man, one desert country, rewrote the rules of global oil for every producing nation on earth. But what he did next is what the West could never forgive. He took that money and poured it back into Libya. Free housing for every Libyan family. Not subsidized. Free. Free healthcare from the moment you were born. Free education from primary school all the way through university. Electricity bills subsidized by the state. Petrol cheaper than water. When a Libyan couple got married, the government deposited the equivalent of $50,000 into their account so they could build their home without debt. When a Libyan wanted to buy a car, the government covered half the cost. When a Libyan wanted to farm, the state gave land, equipment, seeds, and a house at no cost. In 20 years, Libya's literacy rate went from 20% to 83%. Life expectancy jumped from 57 to 77. Libya achieved the highest Human Development Index score of any country in Africa. Not one city, not one region, the entire country. Now stop for a second. Does your country have natural resources? Oil, gold, copper, lithium, cocoa, diamonds, timber? Because if your answer is yes, look at your hospital. Look at your child's school. Look at the road outside your house. Then ask yourself, where is that wealth actually going? Because what happened to Libya next will answer that question in a way no classroom ever will. In 2009, Gaddafi stood before the African Union and proposed something that made Western finance ministers go pale. A single African gold-backed currency, the gold dinar. One currency for Africa, backed by gold, that would allow every African nation to trade oil and resources without using US dollars or euros. If that plan succeeded, the financial grip the West held over African economies would dissolve overnight. Hundreds of billions of dollars in currency dominance. Gone. Emails later released from Hillary Clinton's private server explicitly identified Gaddafi's 143 tons of gold reserves and his plan to replace the dollar in African oil trade as primary drivers behind what happened next. Not the civil unrest. Not the human rights concerns that filled the press briefings. The gold. In 2011, NATO launched an air campaign over Libya. 7 months. Over 7,000 airstrikes. Gaddafi's Great Man-Made River, the largest irrigation infrastructure project in human history, delivering fresh water to 7 million Libyans across the desert, was bombed. 2 days later, NATO struck the factory that manufactured the pipes needed to repair it. 7 million people. Water supply, deliberately destroyed. On the 23rd of October 2011, the leaders who authorized the campaign appeared before television cameras and declared Libya free. This is what that freedom looked like. By 2012, there was no functioning central government. By 2014, two rival administrations were fighting each other. both funded by competing Western and Gulf powers. By 2015, open slave auctions were filmed on Libyan soil. CNN broadcast the footage to the world. African migrants sold to the highest bidder in the country that once had the highest living standards on the continent. The 143 tons of gold Gaddafi had accumulated vanished. $150 billion in Libyan foreign reserves frozen by Western governments the moment the intervention began. Never fully returned. Nobody charged. Nobody imprisoned. Nobody tried. The men who authorized it wrote books and gave keynote speeches and collected awards. Today, Libya is still fractured, still without stable government. 15 years later, the oil still flows through those pipelines. Billions of dollars move out of the ground every single year. But the hospitals that once treated Libyans for free are now collapsing. The schools that once educated a generation are damaged and underfunded. And the young Libyans who survived are scattered across Europe as refugees, in countries whose parliaments voted to bomb theirs. This is not ancient history. This is 15 years ago, when a leader in the developing world begins redirecting resource wealth toward his own people, building hospitals, eliminating debt, proposing financial systems that exclude Western banks. The clock starts. It does not matter if that leader is imperfect. The system does not tolerate resource wealth staying inside the country it came from. Gaddafi proved it was possible, and they made certain nobody would try it the same way again. Now I need you to do something. If you have been watching this and thinking about your own country, share this video right now. Not later. Right now? Because someone in your life needs to hear this today, and they will never find it on their own. One share from you puts this in front of thousands of people who have never heard Libya's real story. Drop a comment below and tell me two things. Where are you watching from? I want to know which countries are paying attention. And what hidden story do you want us to expose next? Which government? Which corporation? Which stolen wealth have you always wanted documented? Tell me below. We build this content for you. If you are not following this page yet, follow right now. Facebook does not show our videos to everyone. If you are not following, you will miss the next one completely, and you will never know what you missed. Find us on YouTube, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so nothing gets past you. And if this content has been worth your time, go to our Facebook page and leave us a review. Every review pushes this page in front of more people who deserve to know these stories. Follow, share, comment, review, because the next story we are about to drop is even bigger than this one, and you do not want to be the last person to find out.